Hello, Narnach here. Welcome to an early look at Oxygen Not Included. This is a game in alpha currently, developed by Clay Entertainment. At the bottom, see the current build number. During weekdays there tend to be multiple smaller releases and bug fixes, and the forum post announcing the alpha indicated that more larger releases would follow about every 4 to 6 weeks. So definitely this is an early look. If you don't like early access games, wait for it for a bit. So what do you do in Oxygen Not Included? It's a colony simulator, and it's somewhere in between, on the one hand RimWorld, and the other hand it looks a lot like Terraria, with the gameplay slightly comparable to Dwarfs, but it goes way deeper than all of those games. There's a pretty compelling fluid and gas dynamics system in here, so as your people get into small rooms, they actually breathe in the oxygen and they exhale carbon dioxide. And if they don't get more oxygen in, they might actually suffocate. So I'm gonna load up a colony that I started yesterday evening, played for about 4 or 5 hours. And currently we are on cycle 34, also known as day 34. You start out with just 3 people. And it got a little bit larger than that. So let's actually advance time so the game can realize all the materials that we have, including how much food we have. So this is our colony. We have a lot of dupes, duplicated people that get spit out of the printing pods over here. And they have basic needs. They need to breathe in oxygen, they need to eat food, and they need a good night's rest. And they don't really want to get stressed out, so they want their environment to be rather nice. And if you comply with all of those things, then they are generally gonna be pretty happy campers. The problem, however, is that you are stuck basically in the middle of a planet of sorts, deep underground. You have no idea how you got there. With the only exception that there is a printing pod and 3 of your people spawned out of it, and now you're just trying to survive. So there is not really a lot in terms of story or anything. Survive. And it is said that you might want to try to get to the surface, which is somewhere up above. I have no idea how far up it goes. But of course the first thing is you want to set up something that resembles a slightly stable environment. The thing is, everything is working against you. And currently especially, you are consuming exhaustible resources faster than that you can actually replenish them. Or you can't actually replenish them, so you always have a need to expand. So let's have a quick look. We have some plants here that, if you look closely at them, they actually have some kind of maggots crawling over them. And it's those maggots that are actually the food here, not the plants. And you can tell your folks to harvest them. And then in the microbe musher you can make some lice loaves, which consist of some meal lices that are freshly picked off of the plants, combined with some bottled water, which is scooped up from the water tank that we have here. And then out comes a loaf of lice meal. It's I don't know, probably better than the alternative, which is the mush bar, which you make out of just dirt and bottled water. So you put in a lot of dirt, a lot of water, you push it through the musher, and as you can see, it just slowly squeezes out. And then tasty dinner is there. So that's one of the basic needs. The thing is though, food is, once you have things under control, it's relatively doable. Well, let's switch over to an overlay. There's a number of overlays in the game. Oxygen overlay is one important one. Blue is oxygen. And the lighter the blue is, the higher the concentration of oxygen. Darker blue has a lower concentration. Here you see there's a very high concentration of oxygen here, lower here. But there's also other colors. So we got a red hydrogen, which of course is not really breathable. Down here we got a carbon dioxide, and if we turn off the filter, you see there's this black, it's almost like their exhaust fumes. But that's carbon dioxide, really not breathable. The hydrogen is a bit reddish in color. And of course hydrogen is one of the lightest gases, so it kind of just floats to the top, while carbon dioxide is pretty heavy and it floats to the bottom. And oxygen tends to stay in the middle. Every once in a while there's some contaminated oxygen which just has all kinds of disease-causing things in it. And for that reason, in specific locations we set up some air deodorizers which suck in the yellow stuff and turn it into regular oxygen again. And we got another one here. But you see, no, we are trying to deal with all of these gases. So oxygen is something that's you'll be thinking about, creating clean oxygen. That's going to be one of the things that you'll be thinking of quite a bit. Early on, you built these algae deoxidizers. You just put in a scoop of algae and you supply it with power, and it creates oxygen. So that helps you breathe. But the thing is, if we have a look over here at organics, we currently don't have any algae. If we don't have algae, then the deoxidizers don't really do much. So that means we are slowly breathing up all of the oxygen and filling up the air with carbon dioxide and not really doing a lot with it. So once you start doing some research, there are some options that you have, and the deodorizer is one of them. And let's see, where was it? The water purifier here. So once we actually build it, so we are purified, but oh yeah, it's the air scrubber. So this one takes in carbon dioxide and basically just runs it through water. If we have a look at the water overview. No, clean water goes in, contaminated water goes out. And then we run that through the purifier, which basically runs the dirty water through some sand, and clean water comes out. And we got a very nice water filtration system. And what we do with this, of course, is we clean the carbon dioxide out of the air, and this is nice and blue. And we just recycle our water. Over here we got some electrolyzers. It's a higher bit of technology, and it turns water into oxygen and hydrogen. And over here we got a gas pump that sucks in the different gases that we produce. So some oxygen, some hydrogen, and then we run it, let's see, through some pipes into the hydrogen generator, which we actually let the hydrogen be consumed, and we turn it into power. And all of the clean air simply gets blown out into the vents here, and we have a network of pipes that go to different other locations where all the oxygen is being exhaled. So that way we have a way of just spreading some clean oxygen throughout our base. Also, we need to harvest a couple more of these plants. So the entire purpose of this is to first survive, and then once you got basic survival going, you want to see if you can expand. So this water started out with a small puddle of water over here. This used to be a larger cavern that also had some water. So I broke through basically broke through the floor and collected everything in here, and we got a nice pump that feeds into our oxygen generation system. And one of the things is basically once your colony gets far enough, and especially once you start running out of algae, algae are now a really nice way for just getting easy oxygen. But after that, we just get into trouble, because once it becomes more difficult for your people to breathe, and especially once it's difficult to breathe while they are sleeping, then of course they're gonna wake up cranky because they didn't get a good night's sleep. They're gonna get stressful, so they need to spend some more time on the massage table, for example. And if we look over here, Seth is currently a little bit stressed, so let's assign Seth to the massage table to just get a little bit of relaxation. And of course, you see these people in hamster wheels. That's the low-tech way to generate power. You just put someone in a hamster wheel, and that generates some power for us, which we store in tiny batteries over here. We actually do have access to some larger batteries. But no, all of this, getting people in hamster wheels to generate power, using some hydrogen to generate power, they're all different things that we can do in order to improve things. And one of the tricks in here is of course to see if you can just set up a setup that is relatively efficient. So here, for example, you want to extract as much hydrogen and oxygen as possible, so these electrolyzers will never stop working because the maximum gas pressure has been reached. So we might want to get multiple pumps up, but you see this one already has some issues draining stuff out. Over here was also a little bit of water that we ran through all the way down here. Currently, one of the things was that we didn't really have a lot of copper ore, which you used to build a lot of the power-consuming products. So someone is a bit beyond reach. Did you actually build yourself in? Let's increase the priority of this so you can actually dig yourself a way out. Probably climbed up here, climbed up there, and then got stuck. They do that sometimes. They get themselves into situations where they just have no way out. Also, see here, this one doesn't have oxygen because there's a bunch of contaminated oxygen. And we're stuck here. And they have a pretty decent sense of self-preservation. But your people do need to be able to get to a safe spot. Once they caught their breath, they can happily continue. So you might see these children's pictures on the wall in different places. That is some of our people's attempt at making art, similar to the statues. And they help to make things look slightly better. Because people get stressed out when they're in ugly places, and that might come as no surprise, but all of the contraptions that we have to produce the various things, they are considered to be pretty ugly. Also, we might just want to tell people to clean up a little bit. So, just get some things that are scattered on the floor, get them out, and that makes places slightly less ugly. We finally finished building our coal generator over here. Coal generators create a bunch of carbon dioxide. Luckily it's standing next to the air scrubber, so this should be rather happy. And we do have a bunch of hydrogen just floating about here. Maybe we should turn some of our tiles into gas permeable tiles, so the hydrogen can more easily float to the top. So somewhere up in the top of the base we can actually gather it and then maybe just divert it back to our hydrogen generator. So as you see, there's a bunch of tools that you have at your disposal to create a working colony, create a somewhat sustainable ecosystem. And currently you will end up consuming your water, especially if you rely a lot on some of the things that are inefficient in using that water. For example, for generating oxygen, you have the algae terrarium, which can actually recycle carbon dioxide into oxygen, but it consumes a lot of water. And because water is a relatively scarce commodity, that's not really gonna help. You can now set up some plumbing systems. You start with the technology to build outhouses. Basically, you do whatever you need to do on some dirt, which we can then scoop into a compost heap, which just generally turns the contaminated dirt into fertilizer, which you can use to make certain types of plants grow. But eventually you get access to lavatories, which are slightly more efficient, but they use water. And you can also get showers, which turn clean water into dirty water, but it just does make people more happy. And all of those things, they consume water, or they recycle water, and eventually that needs power and stuff to actually clean things. So far I got one nice clean pool of water, but in different places there is, for example, contaminated water. Let's have a... Here, there's some contaminated water over there. There's some here, some there. Oh, and the further you go from your starting location, the more stuff you find, of course. And all of that contaminated water, once you feed it through the water purifier, you actually can make clean water of it. So even if you find contaminated water out there, which your people know they get sick from interacting with it, they get really stressed out from interacting with it. But if you clean it, you can use it. Also, I think we need even more gas permeable tiles to just get some more of the hydrogen out, because it's really becoming an issue. Also, we really need to clean up more air here. Just build one of those over there. And this plant is currently being stifled. Might as well just dig it up, deconstruct it, and then we can put up a air deodorizer over there later on. But currently, hydrogen is building up here. We have contaminated air as well. And I've been digging all the way up through here, just in an attempt to scout things out. There's large amounts of chlorine and hydrogen in here. There's some oxygen in here. There's a big vacuum in here. I've basically been just looking for a way to just dig myself up without opening up these large caverns with potentially toxic gases. And some stuff is easier to dig through. For example, this abyssalite here is nearly impenetrable, so it takes a lot of time to dig through. While this clay is very soft, and so is the slime. Slime, by the way, which is something we can turn into algae with the proper tools. So that is probably something that we can have a quick look at right now. That was under refinement, the biodistillery. So we put some slime in and some dirty water, and algae come out, and the algae we can feed back to our oxygen generators. But this is a rather large tool. Oh, we can turn it in here. Yeah. So let's have a look. So first of all, it needs some power. Let's just build tiles underneath here. Let's see, mesh tiles. Basically, liquid and gas goes through. So that seems like a useful thing. If we dig this down, let's see, build another mesh tile. So that way, if we have more water coming in from the top, it can just simply go through there, rather than flooding our tool. Some equipment doesn't really like to stand with its feet in water, so once we got that, then let's have a look. It probably needs power. Yes, it does. So let's just think it, and it's just really cute how what the sounds are that you make when you're just laying the cables through the floor. And this one produces dirty water, which we clean up over here. So let's have a look. What we can do is we can just guide it through here. Then, oh, let's actually cancel everything, because I noticed once you load up a save game, it resets the materials that you are going to use for building things. So in this case, we're using copper ore to build it, because it is a tool, it is a building. But for example, tiles can be made out of different materials. And obsidian is rather rare, but because it's on the leftmost side, whenever you load a new save game, it always picks the one on the left side. But for example here, granite is prettier. It actually improves the decor. So if we make some tiles out of granite, then of course it's going to be nicer to look at, and people are going to be less unhappy interacting with it. Mesh tiles can only be made out of copper. Ooh, that's actually good to remember. Okay, we were working on power, that's also just copper. Once you get some iron ore, you can also make it out of iron, and that's all fine. Let's see, for the plumbing now, liquid pipes can make it out of different things, but let's not use obsidian for it. Well, most of the time I tend to use sandstone. It gives a small decor bonus, and it is really, really common. And especially because it's going to be built into the walls, doesn't really help. So, recap, this produces dirty water, so we want to add it to the purifier, so it goes up here, and let's just line it through the air, Boop, like that. White is the output, as it says here, green is an intake, which is over there. And then this one needs to get supplied with stuff every once in a while, and people can do that from up there. Probably means that we want to build our slime storage in next to it, so all the slime simply goes there. So let's build that. Then, because this is of course a important project, we're just gonna improve the priority of everything relating to this specific project, so people will pick this over anything else they could be doing, like that. And then we unpause, and people are simply gonna move ahead. While people start doing that, we'll just have a bit of a look and assign some more cleanup duties. Okay, so the gas vents or the gas permeable tiles are doing some of their work now, because this is getting more blue and the yellow is slowly moving up. Well, we're not quite done yet, so let's build another air deodorizer over there. So eventually all the gas is gonna go to the top and we'll have to deal with it. Because this room is mostly closed, there's not gonna be a lot of stuff happening. But every once in a while, well, when construction needs to happen here, we open up the door here. And, well, people will go in and gases will escape. See some people that are hungry, so they're gonna go out and they're gonna go eat. Got a nice little fridge over here which stores quite some food, and it keeps the food in a good temperature. And you're eating there, but there's tables that you can sit at. Oh wait, those tables have been assigned and we now have more people than we have space in the mess hall. Interesting. So maybe we should dig out a little bit of a mess hall. It's only nice. So we'll just mark this for digging. And by default, of course, everything is assigned as priority 5. So this will get done after our project over here. That way we can set up another mess hall. One of the nice things is you can, even though this is still a bunch of blocks, you can actually already assign some new building projects, which will just simply get completed afterwards. And in this case, let's also add some decor to it. Some overhead paintings are just gonna make people really happy while they eat. And this way we can expand things. So why is this bed all by itself? Well, that is because Celeste, the person who is assigned to this bed, is a very loud sleeper. And minute or so the day is gonna be passed, and then you'll see just a lot of sound waves coming off of this bed, and if anybody else would be sleeping nearby, they would be woken up from all the noise. Because of course we haven't really had a look at our people yet, but we can print a new duplicant, which is what we're gonna do. So when you start, you can pick 3 of the duplicants, and there is going to be a randomized button to just generate a random one to replace them. After that, every once in a while the portal will start lighting up, and you can send one of these 3 through, or you can reject them all, after which you have to wait 20 minutes or so for another person to be available. And they have a mix of good traits and bad traits, and for example you over here is a very loud sleeper. So you want to put them in their own room so they won't wake up anybody else. But on the other hand, he's naturally robust, meaning that he doesn't really get sick, and a quick learner, which is good as a researcher. And now we got some medicine resistance. Athletics for movement speed is really nice. It's also nice for putting people in a hamster wheel, since they'll be more efficient at generating power. And creativity means they'll be better at making paintings. Over here we got a miner that's good at digging and learning. It's a night owl, so it works best while he should be sleeping. And a yokel, so you can't actually do research. So this +3 bonus to learning, yeah, not really helpful. But on the other hand, the learning also helps with skill leveling, so not always lost. Over here we got an interior decorator, very good at creativity, but of course with a better taste comes a higher expectation of a decor. So your people, they have a reasonable requirement of how nice their environment should be, and the higher their requirement, the more unhappy they will be if they don't get happy. And if they get unhappy, their stress levels rise, and if the stress levels got too high, something is gonna happen. And currently there's 2 different responses. Either they're gonna start vomiting all over the place, and then you'll have contaminated water basically just across half of the area, and you'll either have to mop it up, or everybody who's gonna walk through is gonna get stressed out, because it's not fun walking through puke. The alternative is that they get destructive when they get stressed, and then they start using their hammer to wreck your machines. Machines that produce power, that produce oxygen, those are things that they are really happy with taking their stress out on. And then you have to spend quite some time fixing it. So the entire lesson of that is, don't get stressed, because stressed people are really bad. And once the entire colony has high stress levels, it only goes from bad to worse, because now you get people vomiting all over the place, making everybody unhappy. You get people messing up with your machines, so you'll be generating less oxygen, so people will have trouble sleeping, getting more stressed, and it's a vicious cycle, and eventually everything spirals out of control. So you really want to prevent that. Let's see, we had a night owl yokel interior decorator with a small bladder, so they just have to go to the toilet more often. Well, a decent set of options here. On the other hand, loud sleeper. Let's go with the loud sleeper, and we'll just give them their own room, since we are digging this out anyway. So over here we can assign a cot, like so, and we'll just increase the priority of this to an 8. And then we'll just get this one up to 7. So at least we get the bed up rather quickly. Once we have it assigned, we can move on. So over here we have our biodistillery is up and running while we were talking, which is nice, and it converts slime into algae, and it produces some dirty water as a side effect. So over here we want to say organics. Put the slime and algae in here, and then we'll increase the priority of this to a 7. So if it's stored anywhere else with a lower priority, it simply get moved over here. So it's easier to just fill this one up. So in the water list we see dirty water coming out every once in a while, which is nice because now we actually have a slightly renewable source of water. Of course we've used up all of our slime right now, but we did get some algae. So it is going to be... oh, actually we moved it. So we've got 180 kilos of slime. But this one, once it actually has power, it's gonna do rather well. Also, of course, yeah, we dug through stuff here. Might as well add some tiles. So, down here, I've already set up a mining shaft so we can get our hands on some slime, which is the camouflage-looking stuff that tends to be mixed in with clay. And there's a lot of the stuff. And up here, there is more slime as well. So once you start using slime, it is a potentially renewable source, or it is a readily available source of materials, at least in this world. The worlds are of course randomly generated, and sometimes you get a lucky start, sometimes you get a slightly less lucky start. I've been happy so far. And let's see, we definitely need to get more oxygen generated. Gonna say we're gonna enable this one, so once we get some more algae, at least we can get the oxygen generators started. Because yeah, once people have issues breathing, they're gonna be unhappy. Let's put Bertrand on the massage table just to make things happy. And we keep filling this one up. How is our storage currently? Okay, algae we are putting somewhere else. Of course, because we are feeding the machines. So for now, we'll just enable everything that in our base produces power from algae, because oxygen is an issue. One of the nice things of, if you're producing enough oxygen, it's naturally gonna push the carbon dioxide down, and it's gonna push things like hydrogen up. So just getting enough generation of the stuff is gonna be good. And we got a nice pocket up there. So what we could do is we'll just create some gas permeable tiles up here. And just promote gases for going upstairs. Because if they have an easier time going up, then we get them out of the base. And that's what everybody wants. There's a lot of contaminated oxygen down here. Let's put down an air deodorizer. As you see, we went from cycle 34 to cycle 37 at the lowest speed, while I was just taking you through everything. No, the further you get, the lower you get on resources, the more difficult it gets. You definitely want to keep an eye out for just producing enough food, because of course starving people eventually die, which is not a good thing. You want to keep an eye out for your oxygen production, because if people are suffocating, they're not happy. And all in all, just try to get a semi-successful colony going, and see if you can ever actually make it to the surface. I haven't managed to achieve it, but with every colony I play through, I do manage to get further, and I do manage to understand more of the game systems as I play. And that is one of the things, of course, that is really a fun part of these colony management games. Now, every playthrough, you learn something, and it's just fun, even if everything eventually goes to waste. Because the crisis management is pretty fun as well. So as I said, this game is still in an alpha state. They are planning to add more things to it, more sources of food, more enemy types, I think, as well. Currently, every once in a while, you see things like these morbs pop up that your people can attack them, and they do stuff. This one, for example, is disease-ridden. And I believe they produce contaminated oxygen. So no, that doesn't really make him all that well. I think there's a couple of other types of enemies, but I haven't seen them just yet. Mostly it's morbs. A lot of morbs actually, but they look so cute. Those little jumpy eye things. Maybe the higher or lower we go, that we encounter different kinds of enemies. No, more food, more sustainable ecosystems is something that the alpha post on the forums also indicated. That's something that they're working on. Because right now, of course, things are working and it's remarkably stable and well, it feels relatively balanced. So you can actually get a colony going for quite a while, and especially once you get a better understanding of the systems, you manage to survive longer. As I said, no, not managing your slime very well early on is, or your algae is something that definitely kills off colonies. Being not strict enough with water is definitely something that's eventually gonna wreck you if you don't pay attention to it. But as you play, you get better and you survive for longer. Currently, if you go on Steam and you search for the game, you see that it's not available yet, then you can wishlist it. If you go to the forums, they actually have a link to the alpha build on Steam. That's not publicly listed, but if you go to it via that link, you can actually get it. And you can actually buy the alpha. Currently it's 20 bucks. And of course, it's an early access game, so always bear that in mind. Buy it for what you can currently do with it, not what you hope that it will eventually allow you to do. As I said, I've already managed to put a couple of evenings in. So for me, that's always an indication that it's already fun to play and it can only get better. As always, links to everything are in the description of this video. I hope you enjoyed a early look at Oxygen Not Included. And I'm gonna thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.